Hello, welcome back. I have fetched Albie from outside and now he is in desperate need of love. And hopefully his purring isn't too annoying. He loves earlobes for some reason. It's a bit weird. Look at that face. Look at that cat. I don't know why we're out of focus. He's so good, but he's a bit of a pest. Such a worry, I swear. All right, so hopefully everything's working. Why am I out of focus? Let me look at this. Are you gonna focus on me? Yeah, cool. All right, I guess I'm good now. Cool, yeah. All right, so we've got a lot of work ahead of us. I reckon we can go to this camera. This should allow me, I should be able to walk around. How good's that? I can be tracked, and now you can see me wherever I go. And if we get bored of watching me, I can put it onto animal tracking mode, and we can track Albie as he pests. Come on. No, doesn't want to jump. Yep. All right. Cool. So first thing I want to do is take the current platform off. Actually, very first thing is I want to put some music on, because we've got a bit of work ahead of us. And if you've got work to do, you may as well listen to music. So hopefully, no, you won't be able to hear that yet. Let's do that one. I don't really know what volume levels are good for this sort of thing, so that should be good. That looks like half the volume of what I am at, according to like little bars. But if it's too loud, too quiet, let me know. If you want me to change the song, let me know. Yep, cool. So the one annoying thing with this is that I have loaned a friend my drill, and that's going to make this whole process a little bit more tedious. But that's all right. And actually, just before we start, I think that I will unplug our umbilical cord so it doesn't get in the way. So give you some insight into the Dave Harrison. And that end we should leave plugged in. So look at all this. We've got this huge, like when this is plugged in, it's like there. There's just this enormous, like, the camera moves down. You've just got like this giant clump of cable here. Like this could really be like that. So I could honestly cut off like all of this. But I don't want to do anything until the actual platform is in, because obviously we will be in the same spot that we would have been before, where it might be slightly off, a little bit too long or a little bit too short. And that would be very frustrating. Let's put that cover back on. All right, cool. So platform is separate. Joggerbot is ready to go. We need this guy. So these are all attached. You can actually go in, if you look in the, maybe this tracking is going to be a bit annoying if I'm moving around. Let's do this. That should be good. Why did that not autoplay? Yeah. Yeah. In a link in the description of this live stream, you can find the Onshape model that I had open before, and that's got the model of what we're going to be moving to. So right now, this is obviously the old design, and you can kind of follow along to see what I'm going to be doing. I haven't modeled in a lot of the fasteners yet. I am working on it. It's not a super high priority, to be honest. So you won't necessarily be able to see exactly what fasteners I'm interacting with at any given moment, but you'll be able to see what I'm actually moving towards. Yeah, first thing, we need to take out these shoulder bolts. And I was really hoping, a big reason why I haven't done this up until now is that I wanted to get this platform fully built as it was supposed to be, because it never really actually got like, I don't know, fully constructed. And the only thing I'm missing is the string that runs between all of the nodes and like tensions everything up and stops this from moving around so much. But unfortunately, I need my drill to do that. What's the timeline on completion? That's a good question. Depends what you mean by completion. I think for this robot with this on it, so if we replace, once we do this replacement that we'll be doing today, I feel pretty good about this doing 2 balls in 1 Jugglebot in like within a couple weeks from now. That feels very conservative to me, to be honest. But who knows? But for actual project completion, like when I kind of like clap my hands and say that's it, Jugglebot's done. I don't know, years. The way that a good analogy that I've thought of I should probably continue doing that. A good analogy that I've thought of for this is that this Jugglebot, as you see it right now, is like a brick, and I'm trying to build like a skyscraper. This is one single brick in that process. So we've got a long way to go, and I have Loctited these, and they are very hard to undo. Can I do any of them? I think like pliers. Also, by the way, the music that's on, I have mostly for like a shared experience sort of thing as I'm doing this. That's the wrong way. I think, like watching these live streams back, once I have, like the ones that have the music in them, I feel like the music is better for people who are actually like watching it live. And if you're watching it live, and there's not a lot of people watching live at any given time. So if you're watching live and you don't want the music, then let me know and I can just turn it off so that I can still hear it, but you can't. So yeah, let me know. I'm more than happy to do that. Which way is tensioning and loosening? Feels like it should be the other way. I think I could probably go a little bit easier on the Loctite next time. I hate doing this when I'm like, I get very turned around when I'm doing them when they're facing me. Maybe that's tension. Oh, you want to go out now, Albie, do you? You just want. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Yeah, I think I'll probably put a little bit less Loctite in next time. Oh man. I don't know if I vibe this thing. My relationships are not struggles. My relationships are usually pretty good. Currently, at least. Okay, there we go. All right, and we probably should have thought this through properly. All right, yeah, but this is the tricky part. I mentioned before is that once one leg is off, this whole thing is very free to move around, and it can balance in some spots. But if I just like bump it, then it falls over, and I really don't want it to be falling over. So let me put this back on just a little bit. And we need to construct some sort of frame to hold this. What are you doing, Albie? Okay, so what I'm thinking is I have, let me, and actually, yeah, Sleepy Cod, if you're still around, my, for completion, for like the first like big exciting video on Joggerbot, I'm hoping by the end of the year. I really hope and feel good about having that video done by the end of the year. I think that is reasonable, and yeah, I feel good about that. And that could potentially go to 3 balls in one hand. Given John's testing of this hand mechanism, it looks fairly likely that this mechanism will be able to throw high enough to do 3 balls in one hand. And like I can do 3 balls in one hand in this ceiling, and I'm like a lot higher up. Like my hand is a lot higher up than Joggerbot is. So I feel like Joggerbot should be able to do 3 in 1, which would be pretty damn cool. I don't think there's a robot that can do 2 in one hand currently. There's definitely like single ball ones, but I don't think they've ever been able to do 2 in one hand. What do I want? My tripod. So my thinking is I've got this really big tripod that extends to be quite long. I'm thinking that I can put this up above Joggerbot and then use some straps to support the platform. While I'm taking off the rest of the legs. I'm a big fan of this tripod as well. I'm obviously not sponsored, well, hopefully not obviously sponsored by them, but it's K&F Concept. It's quite good. So that can go there. And there's a little hook down the bottom here. So I'm thinking I can put this strap through. I feel a bit like a car mechanic working on like an engine. I need one of those like the giant like, I don't even know what, are they hydraulic? I don't know, the big like lifts that they use to like pull the engines out of cars. I'm sure some of them are hydraulic. Yeah, I tried this before as well, but I only did it with string and I couldn't get it working. It was very dodgy, but I think with this strap it should be a lot better. The hook is not very well shaped. Let's raise it up a bit. All right. We'll see how that goes. So if I take this leg off, there you go, doesn't fall over. Nice, cool. That is a lot more effective than I thought it was going to be. And these legs, I'm going to unplug the encoder cable, so now they are fully electrically separate, and now I just lay these out to the side, which does become quite the tripping hazard once they're all splayed out, but I'll just be careful and hopefully not step on one. That'll be very, very upsetting. Let's do this one again. Feels like it's tensioning it. Let me try another one. I really want to get, there's a remote that comes with these cameras, and I really think I should probably get it so that I can control the camera position away from my computer. Well, yeah, I was tensioning before. Oh, really? Am I boring you, Albie? There we go. All right. Oops. Leave that in. Unplug and lay down. All right. And we need to harvest these shoulder bolts because we'll be using these with the new platform. Sure, you can go outside. Such a pest. Threads never feel very long when you're tying them, when you're doing them up in the first place, but when they're locked in with Loctite, it just takes so long. There we go. Right, I'm going to unplug all of the encoder cables now so I don't have to do them one at a time. I know you're not supposed to pull the cables, like the JST connectors from the cable, but my fingers are too fat to get into the space where the cable itself is, so that's my only choice. And believe me, I am aware of the consequences if the JST connector rips. Gonna have to get those bearings out later. Yes. Hopefully not, yeah, I mean, we'll see. Takes a while to do video editing, but we will get there. Don't you worry, we will get there. And there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen with Jogglebot. We are very, very, very early days right now. Sound. Oh no, I think I'm breaking my hex driver. Yeah, that's what that sound is. Let me see if I have any others of this size. Pretty sure I do. Yes. Just a bit awkwardly long. I think I've stripped the head of that bolt. Oh, this one just comes right out. Man, do not underestimate Loctite. It's solid. Okay, 2 more, and this one's going to be a bit troublesome, so let's leave it for last. So awkward. Pliers. Maybe not. It's just this. The shaft of this driver is so long, and I feel like half of my energy is just going into like bending the shaft rather than doing the bolt. It's getting there, bit by bit. Finally. Bolt is a bit stuck. Let's try hammering it out. It's very stuck. All right, let's deal with that later once the thing's off. Okay, now the final one. Yes, that has been stripped. Maybe I can grab the head of the shoulder bolt with the pliers. Oh yeah. Should have done it solving. So much easier. Wow. There's little like tooth profiles on the head of the bolt. And I guess they are just enough for the pliers to grab onto. It's not coming out. I actually think the threaded insert in the next part, actually, yeah, I think it might be slipping. Wow. So let's remove the next stage down. My hands are going to be sore after today. Yeah, this part is fully cracked. Wow, I tightened that up way too much. I'll show you that in just a sec. I want to get that next part printing though, because it would be good to have that ready. So let me turn on the printer. I love this aspect of 3D printing, where it's like, oh no, the thing broke. But it's like, haha, I can just print another one and it'll be ready by the time I need it. So it was this guy that broke. I actually should just be able to export from here. Yeah, actually this is a good time to mention as well. Someone helped me with or had a good suggestion in the last stream about how to speed up the process of like going from Onshape to the printed part. And there's a Chrome extension that was called something like downloads don't overwrite themselves. Let me, just for the purposes of completion, let me just pull up what it is. Called downloads overwrite already existing files. Is the name of it. This is what it is. And what this does is it means that when you download a thing, it will not append the 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever it is. And that way when you export it a second time, so like if I have this part here and I go, oh, like this is good, but I want to make some changes, I can go back into Onshape, export the same part again, and it will have the exact same name, so that when I come back into Prusa Slicer, you can just go reload from disk and it will reload with your changes. And that speeds things up quite a bit. So put a threaded insert into there, and that is what is broken right now. Which is pretty surprising, to be honest. Like that's fully covered the whole way around. Like obviously the end is a bit thin, but I must have really over tightened that. So now we go. See the whole process. Go to Octoprint. Just turned it on, so I need to connect. This is my bellows that I've been trying again and again to print. You can see I've got all of my failures on my desk here. So many. Actually, that one wasn't. All these. I think 1 or 2 others have fallen down. So much time. I can just drag that G-code in that we just made and print. How easy is that? Cool. Let's get back to the robot. So now that part should be ready by the time we are ready for it. So I can take the platform off. Actually, yeah, feeling this now, this is definitely lighter than the new one. That's okay, because weight isn't really, well, shouldn't really be that big of a problem. And we can see, I'll show you the broken part. In here. Look at that. Cracked. Which does raise the question of like, how am I going to get this out? But I think I have enough. Yeah, I've got enough shoulder bolts extra that I won't need to do that right now. All right, cool. So that's good. Let's weigh the 2 platforms. Let's see how they compare. The new one's definitely a lot heavier, this one. But I don't know, not by, doesn't feel like by too much. How can I position the camera here? So I've got a scale here. work. So this is the old design. Pretty close to a kilo, 986 grams. And that's with this broken part. So it's actually ever so slightly less than that. So let's just stay with that. 986 versus, how can I balance this on here? Yeah, 1228. So what's that, like 250 grams heavier? Let's hope its performance makes it worthwhile. Maybe there. And go back to this one. Cool, okay. So this guy can go join the rest of the old prototypes that are not being used. But he's a bit big, he's a bit bulky. Just leave it there for now. Okay, before we put the next platform on, I want to move all of the legs over onto the inside spots. So this process is going to be a bit tedious. It's just going to be a little bit slow, not going to lie. So if you've got any questions you want to ask me, I'm all ears. I should be able to read the chat now. Let me move my desk down. How was this? I love having a standing desk. A motorized standing desk. I've used a friend's one where you like spin the wheel, and that was so tedious. Cool, so I should be able to see the chat. If you want to say anything, please do. Because I'm just going to be here screwing. This was a very inopportune time for me to lend my drill to a friend. It's got a lot of screws to undo. Take the hard bits off as well. Printer's just starting up. Good to see. Here you can see the power of the bellows. Look at this. I have full flexibility, but I can only twist it that much. Pretty good. Very cool design. It makes me wonder though, like, how did people make these in the past? Because these were used for like gaming consoles, like arcades for like the joysticks for the exact same reason. And they're on like cars for like the shifter. But I don't know how they made them. I'm pretty sure they're fabric, but like, how do you stitch that together? Because if that is possible, if it is possible to make these out of fabric and like it's not that difficult, then I would be down to do that. Because these TPU ones just drives me mad. And actually, once I get two of these legs taken off, I'll show you the difference. Because like this one was obviously printed when the filament was a bit wet, and you can see it so clearly. It's like, it's very rough, the surface finish. And that one, incidentally, is actually broken. Whereas this one, which looks like it was printed with dry filament, doesn't seem to be broken. This one, I'll take this one off so I can show you the what is it called? Bellows. I'm quite happy lately with the work that we've been doing, that I was doing in the last week, was all on my desk. And I really like doing desk work and not on the ground juggernaut work, because this just destroys my back after doing this for a day. What inspired me to start this project? That's a good question. I have been juggling for a while, and honestly I've been juggling for a while, and I don't know, it's good, but like, you really have to keep up practice. If you stop, if you don't practice very, very regularly, then you lose the ability to do what you could have done previously. Like especially for like high numbers. Like I've been practicing 7 balls for 2019 is when I started doing logging of my progress on it. And I've kind of fallen behind on that logging, to be honest, because it was slow. So I stopped taking record of it. But yeah, at least 5 years I've been trying 7 balls. And honestly, I think if I'm ever going to be successful with 7 balls, I need to just live in a house or have extremely close access to a place where I can just practice for like 5 or 10 minutes every single day. Because without that daily practice, you just fall behind and you just lose it because it's so physically demanding and mentally demanding. So yeah, that aspect is very frustrating, and there's so much that can be done with juggling. Like I've got a juggling book that I've mentioned a couple times, and in that book he mentions at one point that there's a whole set of juggling patterns that could be done in theory, like they are mathematically possible, but the timing is just impossibly difficult for humans to do, especially when you're doing more than 2 arm juggling and you have to get multiple people involved. Getting that coordination is so hard, and for a lot of these patterns your room for error is very small, and it's just not feasible with humans. And so there's a whole like world of juggling patterns that have just never been realized, and I don't know, the stars aligned. There were a lot of things going on in my life at the time, and everything just kind of worked out nicely for me to go, yep, I'm just going to start giving this a go and see where it leads. And here we are 3 years later, still going, still not successful yet, but very soon, very soon. So have a look at this. If I go to me, and if I bring this camera down, let's stand up. So this was a bellows that was printed with fresh filament. You can see nice and shiny. How good is that? And this is one that was printed with wet filament. So rough. And you can see it's actually split in here. So that's no good. No good. And this one I don't think is split the whole way around, but it's pretty close to giving out. And also for the fancy stuff made here style video, I really want to make it like, I want to have the robot as aesthetically appealing as possible. So it would be good if I could fix all of these little problems. Let's go off with these guys. Cool. All right, 3 more to unscrew. This is actually going pretty fast. I was expecting this to take a lot longer without a drill. Thankfully, I did not Loctite these bolts. That would have been much more tedious to undo. Yeah, I've got to say, the early days of this project were questionable at best. Thinking back on some of the earliest prototypes that I had, which frustratingly, I think there's a few things, like the very first things, I actually don't think I have any footage of it, which is a bit frustrating. I hadn't considered starting a YouTube channel to follow this project until, I think it was at least 6 months or so into the project. So there's a lot of stuff that I just didn't think to record. But the designs were so funny. It's like in hindsight, it's like clearly that's not going to work. But of course, I didn't know that at the time, and I feel that honestly, I feel kind of the same way about this entire structure. Like this layout of Jugglebot is so clunky. It's so much more complicated than it needs to be. But it's frustrating because like it feels like bringing this version of Jugglebot closer to its functioning point. Sorry, it feels like bringing this version of Jugglebot to a functioning point is closer than starting from scratch, like in a different form factor. But it feels a bit like I'm like, I don't know, finishing the steam, whatever the Titanic used to like power itself. It feels like I'm like putting the finishing touches on the Titanic as it's like just about to crash. Well, that's maybe not quite that dramatic. Yeah, this one's completely split. You can see the whole thing inside. It's definitely not that dramatic, but yeah, I'm keen for what the future brings for Jugglebot. I think it's going to be a lot smaller, so much easier to manufacture, so much cheaper. It's going to be good. to do this first. Let's move this out of the way. Absolutely, Jared. Yeah. So you're saying after this version is complete, would you consider going back and making a version 2 with all your changes? Definitely. Yeah. My intention for this version of the robot is to bring it to a point where it can do something cool. Something where any normal person will look at it and be like, that's cool. And I feel like it's gonna, I honestly, big part of me feels like this is going to be where it will be at in like 2 weeks. But I have said this before, and I know that I've obviously been very wrong about that before. So I don't know. The rest of me is like, you're a fool. Something's going to come up. There's going to be some problems. The CAN bus isn't going to be able to handle all the messages, or some other random problem is going to come up and slow that down. But soon it will be at that point of anyone will look at it and be like, yeah, that's cool. Once it reaches that point, I want to make a video on the whole thing, showing how the whole thing works and what's going on. And then definitely going to put this to the side, this version of Jugglebot, put this to the side and make another version that is a completely different form factor. I am quite fond of the idea of a Core XY system where it's very low profile, and it's basically like the heart of Jugglebot really is this aluminium extrusion. So we have an extrusion and the hand slides up and down it. Right now we have this space frame around it to support it to fit into the rest of Jugglebot as it is, but all of these carbon fiber tubes are not strictly necessary for this part to throw the ball. So I'm thinking if we can make a Core XY system where this aluminium extrusion is like in the center and this just gets like zipped around by the Core XY mechanism, then that should be able to throw a lot of throws that this robot will be able to. It won't be able to tilt. The way that I'm imagining it right now, it won't be able to tilt, so it'll have to like move to the side and throw at the same time to get the ball to go on an angle. But honestly, I think that will be pretty doable. And that would be so small. And I've been dreaming of having like 3 or 4 of those and having 3 of them around this version of Jugglebot, because if you haven't noticed already, this base, let me move down to the camera. No, it doesn't want to do that. This base will like tile a plane. It will like tessellate. So I think it'd be freaking awesome to have this one in the middle and then like 3 in these like tessellation spots on the same sort of base all around it, so they can kind of like juggle to like the Queen Jugglebot being the big tower in the middle. I think that'd be pretty cool. But there are definitely other options. There are a lot, like all that we need is we just need that hand on the aluminium extrusion, and that just needs to be moved around by something. And John, who is very involved in this project now, which is amazing, he's very keen on a delta mechanism, like what they use for pick and place robots, but turned around in a similar sort of platform to this, but with only 3 legs, if you can call them that. And so it can translate in X, Y, Z. But there's a lot of options. It's pretty cool. I honestly think I would love to bring this project to the point where it is well understood enough, like the process of building a juggling robot is well enough understood and documented for there to be like a high school, you know how there's like the FRC robot competitions? Something like that, but with juggling robots, where it's like, there's a competition for like most number of balls juggled with like 2 hands, or you can have one that's like, I don't know, different styles of competitions. Like there's a type of throw called like a zip or a 1 throw, where you throw between your hands like this. And that's really useful for like, if you're doing like a shower pattern, as it's called, where you go around like that. Sorry, staring into the light of the windows, not ideal. When you're going around like this, you need to be able to like zip that ball quickly from hand to hand, and this style of Jugglebot won't be able to do that type of throw. And there's a lot of patterns that you can do with that. Like all of this sort of stuff requires that you can zip quickly. And so making robots that can do that could be like a whole league. I don't know. I feel like, yeah, I want this to be something where I want to increase the number of juggling capable things in the world. So definitely I have big plans to continue developing this. I've already conceded that this design is a temporary one, put it that way. And at some point in the future, honestly probably like 6 months from now, I'll be looking back at this and be thinking, what was I thinking? Who thought that was a good idea? Toasty. You know shit's getting real when the dressing gown comes off. Yeah, one frustrating thing with these bellows is that they can get kind of caught up and they fold in on themselves like that. And because I've got fat ass fingers, I can't really like pinch them back. That's right, hopefully it sorts itself out. And I actually do need to pay attention to which way I put these on, because we need one side has the encoder on the motor. I need to make sure that's roughly facing the drive. I almost just put that on backwards. What is it? Tracking is sometimes a bit questionable. Let's just get here for now. I think I'll get one of those remotes. What I really want is like 4 or 5 more of these cameras. Have them in every corner of the room, and one under the desk, one up there. And I can just snap to all different shots wherever I am. But unfortunately, I do not have infinite money. Probably would have been a good time to do a vacuum of the base, but whatever. All the cat hair will just come back in a week or 2 anyway. Print is done. How good's that? I love 3D printing. Speaking of, has anyone put in their Kickstarter order for the Micronics printer? I have. The idea of SLS printing is too enticing to give up. Although so the Kickstarter opened this morning, and I perhaps foolishly spent most of the morning when I probably should have been doing prep for the live stream. Instead, I was sucked into watching review videos of the printer, like people's experiences with it so far. And I don't know, I'm less keen on it after watching a lot of these reviews. It seems like it's got a lot of problems. And if there's one thing I have learned that I don't like, it is troubleshooting printing problems. It is so frustrating when you just want to press print and have a part, and then not have to worry about it. It seems like it may not be that straightforward yet. So part of me is wondering if it might actually be better to spend the money that I would be spending on that printer on just like getting parts made by like JLC PCB or like PCB Way, or like those people who do like the CNCing and SLS printing and all that sort of stuff as like a service, until the Micronics printer gets to the point where it's like actually production ready. Maybe. But in any event, I'm definitely keen. I think for the next version, I'll definitely still prototype parts with like plastic printing them, but I'm pretty keen to move to something a bit more stiff, a bit more like mechanically capable than these printed parts, which I'm sure will introduce a lot of design constraints. I have definitely been making extensive use of the fact that these printed parts are changeable once they are printed, because I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and it's pretty nice being able to go, oh, that's okay, I can just use my soldering iron and like gouge out like a hole if I need a hole, or drill a hole, or like melt it down in a certain way. That is pretty handy, but I suspect that's a lot more difficult if your parts are made of metal. Jared is asking, what has been your favorite aspect of this project? The CAD, the coding. Definitely the CAD. I am a CAD man. I love me some CAD. It's a good day when I can just sit down, have SolidWorks on our Onshape open, and just get CADing. I love it. I am enjoying the coding though. It's good. I am extremely lucky, I think, that I started this project when I did and had ChatGPT come out throughout the development of this project, because that has saved me so much time with programming. It is not even funny. And just like sensors and that sort of stuff in general. But yeah, definitely favorite part is the coding. I'd say, I don't know, the whole thing is quite interesting, to be honest. Integrating everything together is fun. Doing like coding, systems control, programming. Yeah, it's fun. And like learning how the things work mechanically is good. Like all of the sorry, just getting music's fixed again. Like learning how Jacobians work, for example, has been good, because I heard about those in my undergrad, but we never really did anything with them. And it's been good to actually learn how that works properly. Yeah, so favorite single thing is the CAD. But honestly, the whole thing has just been so good. Such a good learning experience. Definitely a lot harder than I was expecting it to be at the beginning. Oh man, you should have seen my... Maybe I'll pull it out later. I think it's still kind of together. My first Stewart platform that I made with syringes, and it was hydraulically driven by NEMA 17 stepper motors, which, this is a funny story. I was buying these stepper motors on AliExpress, and of course, because when you're buying anything on AliExpress, I mean anywhere, like bulk is always cheaper. And I was like, oh, if I buy like 6, which is what I need to control the Stewart platform, then I may need to buy more later, and then I have to pay for shipping, wait like 3 months for it to arrive. Like, I don't need to do that, because I feel pretty good about this design. I feel like this will work. So I'm gonna buy 15 of these stepper motors, because that will allow me to make 3 or 2 juggle bots and then have a couple motors extra just for like other stuff. I was very naive at the start. There is no chance that that design ever could have worked. For a juggling robot, at least. It did work for the sense of me learning that I need to make the whole system a bit more robust. And I have lost a screw. I need that, like, find the sniper subreddit. Huh. I'll just grab a new one. It'll come up somewhere. It's pretty funny. Yeah, it's honestly, I think getting familiar with using ChatGPT, I feel like even if it's not useful in any given instance, I really think that having the experience of using it and like getting really familiar with what it's good at and what it's not good at and how to interact with it to get what you want, I think that is going to be an extremely useful skill moving forward. And the people who are like, oh, ChatGPT is just like a predictive algorithm that just tells you what is like most likely to be said next. It's like, yeah, but also it's actually super useful and extremely powerful and is only getting better every day. Like this is the worst it's ever going to be moving forward. Where did that bolt go? Whatever. All right. Cool. This has gone a lot faster than I was expecting it to be honest. I've been kind of like just waiting for my friend to return the drill because I didn't want to do this by hand, but this isn't so bad. But now we have to figure out how to support this. Yeah, I've got to get one of those remotes. Maybe I'll put in an order today. We also need to get a cat heated mat so that the cats don't freeze. Because I've learned recently, apparently the WHO has a guideline for what is considered to be like too cold to be a livable house, and that is 18 degrees Celsius. Which, when I heard that, I was like, holy crap, that is warm, that is toasty. Our place is never 18 degrees. I think it's probably currently like 12 or 13. And yes, Jared, ChatGPT can definitely be extremely stupid sometimes. Definitely. And honestly, it feels like its utility kind of like varies from day to day. It feels like they change things on the back end without making it obvious that they have done that. And like, it feels like sometimes I get bad responses when in the past I would have gotten a good response, which does make it a little bit harder to use. This should work. Whoa. Yeah, nice. Cool. This works a lot better with this strapping stuff. When I did this before with just strings, it was terrible. All right, I actually want to double check this because I want to make sure this is facing the right way. So, let's go to the CAD. And unfortunately, I don't have this nice big triad telling me what way I want to go. Let's straighten it up first. All right, so that's the CAN bus thing. I want to be pointing forwards. So that CAN bus thing is currently on the cable here. So I want this to be that way. Cool. And now we have the moment of truth because I am realizing that I've actually never tested these. I really should have tried this before I epoxied everything together, but I haven't tried how this fits with the bearings and the shoulder bolts. So let's just hope it all works. Bearing fits nicely. I hate sometimes the shoulder bolts, like the tolerance on them is so tight. Sometimes it's really hard to get the bearings onto them. I don't know if there's like a strut for this that I'm just missing. There we go. Oh, that is beautiful. I think. Yes, that's perfect. Hang on, let me check the cutting. So I'm going to orient it the way that it's facing on the ground, which is that. So I want the hand to be this way. Yeah, cool, that makes sense. It's not letting me spin. Oh, that's so good. And it spins nicely as well. Love it. Love it. Okay. Now's probably a good time as well. When I put these all together, some of these joints felt really tight. So I want to just check that they're all fine before I screw them onto here. But honestly, this one at least feels fine. And I want to Loctite these as well. I might actually, just before we continue, I might finish this printed part that we just made. I swear I vacuumed this floor literally yesterday and there's still so much crap on it. Maybe it wasn't yesterday, a couple days ago. Alright, so this is the part that is printed. That's pretty good. Got to put a threaded insert into here. So let me... let's do this camera. I'll raise the desk up. And I believe it's N5. Impeccable memory. Very nice. It's not that hard though, it's only really going to be M5 or M6. Bit of a 50-50. And this tool, if you do a lot of 3D printing work, strongly recommend this. My brothers got me this for Christmas, I think, a couple of years ago. It's really good. I'm sure this is probably like a very standard thing on Amazon, but it's really, really helpful. It's got a whole bunch of different heads on it, so you can do like I use this one for like a lot of cleaning faces off. Super helpful. I'm a big fan. And it stops your soldering iron getting covered in this sort of like plasticky crap. My only grievance with it, if this were to break and I were to buy a new one, I would get one that's got like a really strong handle, because this whole red part is only held in with a single screw. And especially when I'm using that flat head to do like cutting, like you can see there's a bit of a blade on it. Whenever I'm like cutting things, there have been a few times where I pushed a bit too hard and I've like snapped this and the whole thing's like popped open. But I just put the screw back in and it was fine. But it's probably not too happy about that happening. Just waiting for it to get up to temp. Actually, whilst doing that, I'm going to quickly go and wash off this glue that I put on my build plate that gets on the parts, and I don't like how it makes my fingers all sticky. Just give me 1 sec. Curious to know if the microphone works all the way out here as well. So if you can hear me, it'd be cool if you could let me know. But in any event, doesn't matter too much. Because I'm back. I've seen some people who have like a really nice, like a drill press style mechanism to do this. But let me get the camera in the better spot actually. But I find just doing it by hand tends to work reasonably well. Oh, that's a good angle. Look at that. I don't know why sometimes my camera turns. It really wants to be there. And I like using something metal when I'm doing my inserts, so that once I've got the insert in, there's often a little bit of like, I don't know, stuff like bubbles up from the top. And it doesn't stay completely flat. But if you have something metal on hand, as soon as you're done with the inserting, you can like push it down on the metal thing and like flatten it out. And that helps a lot. So I hold it here for a second without pushing. And go. Bam! That's all right. Looking at this now, I think that this width is probably why the last one failed. So it's very thin. Yeah, you can look at the printer part, on the model rather, on Onshape. It's quite thin. But I'll be careful to not over tighten that one again. Why are you spinning? How do you do it? Alright, so that's good. Now, let's get the Loctite. And I am a big advocate for having some sort of cleaning implement on hand whenever I'm doing anything with Loctite, so you can clean up your messes as soon as they happen. Good. Right, so I just want to double check that this is actually correct. Yep, that's good. Whoa, that was way too much. This is why it's helpful to have tissues on hand, so I can just mop it up. And I want a washer that I probably should have put on before doing the Loctite. Where did I put the driver? slightly firm, but not too tight. I think having a little bit of play in here is actually probably a good thing, because it means I won't be clamping down too hard on the joint. And that's got maybe a mil tops play. Cool. One leg in. Maybe I'll have zoomed in. Oh, yeah, that's pretty visible. We just had this. It's just very similar. And this is the one with the broken part that we just printed. Yeah, this is the other funny thing. Some of these magnetic joints, maybe I just need to re-lube them, but some of them are a lot stiffer than others. Like that's on a pretty steep angle. It's probably kind of hard to tell on camera, but it's just bouncing there, which is very helpful when I'm doing this sort of manufacturing, but probably not too good when the robot's actually operating. Although I suspect that any small amount of friction down at those base joints is probably not going to do a whole lot. As far as slowing the robot itself down goes. To clamp this. Let me say. Yeah. So this bearing doesn't fit super tightly in the printed part. There's a bit of, I think there's a bit of like elephant's foot on the printed part. I've got a handy little clamp here. So let's squish it in. That's decent. Although I kind of feel like I want it to be a little bit further in. Not that far. There we go. Still spins freely. Small shoulder bolt. 5 nut. And a washer. These joints are definitely a lot more effort to put together than my magnetic ones that I had previously. But the performance of them makes it all worthwhile. Not having the platform separate from the rest of the robot is actually quite helpful, turns out. Part of me is wondering if I should have Loctited that. Maybe I should. Just to be rigorous. It would be very annoying to have this fail and the whole thing fall apart because I didn't Loctite even one nut. Let's go back to J-bolt. Oh, way too much again. good at dispensing Loctite by now. It's a bit grindy, so I want to loosen up a bit. Beautiful. So this one, ooh, crap, lucky that didn't land on anything. I actually want to lower the platform down a bit. It's a bit high up right now. Oh, but I shouldn't even need to touch my strap. Oh, this is gonna be good. I should be able to just lower it like this. Ha 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 ha. How good. Is that correct? That looks correct. This is such a different geometry to before. This platform is a lot smaller than the last one. Yeah, pretty sure that's correct. Hopefully. I'm so happy with how those all fit. That is actually a beautiful fit. I was remembering now, I was intending on actually drilling out a lot of these holes so the shoulder bolt goes through with no contact of the plastic part, only on the bearings, which I'm pretty sure are in the CAD model. I think they're in the CAD model. But yeah, I don't even need to. The holes are big enough where there's no, it feels like at least there's no resistance to that bolt turning. Very nice. Loctite. Still too much. Trying to get an idea of how tight this is. This gets progressively more and more difficult the more legs I put on. It's so hard to know if I've like done each joint to the correct tension or not. Alright, 2 down, 4 to go. This looks so different. See something. I think I'm getting very put off because the center of the platform is where the cup is, but what feels like it should be the center, like intuitively, is where the rod is. So I'm holding it here and I'm like, these legs are so, they don't feel right. But if I move it over to where it's actually in the center, that feels a lot better. Cool. Passes the vibe check. It's always an important one. Let's continue around the back, I reckon. How do I swear I put all of the shoulder bolts up here when I was taking it apart, but there's only one more. And there's no more bearings. Oh, I think the bearings are stuck. Yeah. Fish these out of here. Let's go to this camera. So we've got a couple more bolts and bearings that I left behind. I think what might have happened with this one, I think that the Loctite might have... We're not going to focus. I think the Loctite might have fused the shoulder bolt to the bearing. So that might be difficult to remove. There we go. Good bit of hammering. Never did any wrong. One more bearing in here. Easy enough to just pry out. And then we've got the one that's stuck, which I'll deal with later. That still leaves one more shoulder bolt that has just disappeared. I'll find it in like 6 months when I'm digging around for something else. Here again, this bearing does not want to go onto the shoulder bolt. Let's try it. Not in situ. I think it's just like a bit of crap on the shoulder bolt. This seems to be working now. Ah! love when things just kind of balance in the right spot. Very nice. Yeah, just a tiny little dab of Loctite. So hard to know if it's the right tension or not. Should be fine. All right, 3 more. Woo! Maybe we'll be done by 2. Very good. Now these ones were the ones that I was the most aware of when I was designing these nodes, these like 3 nodes of the platform, because my hex driver, or what I thought was the correct hex driver, which actually I now realize is not, and the actual correct one is much longer, so this actually wouldn't have been a problem. But the correct, what I thought was the correct hex driver is only so long. And I'm pretty happy with myself. I remember to check this in the CAD to make sure this is long enough to actually reach in there and do it. But if the geometry of this structure was honestly like 2 centimeters different, then this hex driver wouldn't have reached, and I wouldn't be able to do it up if this was the correct one. But it turns out I was mistaken, and the actual correct one is super long, and this won't even be a problem at all. What does that say about checking things properly, you know? Is it even really that important? Because like, what are the odds you actually are checking the correct thing, you know? This is kind of how I feel about a lot of like, I don't know, mathematical ways of figuring out this sort of system. It's like there's so many assumptions that you have to make to be able to formulate an equation in the first place that it feels, in my experience, a lot of the time, those assumptions kind of mean that whatever result you get at the end is still only a rough guide of what's actually going to be happening. Unless you know everything extremely precisely and you don't have to make those assumptions. Unless you know that, then the validity of the math can be questionable sometimes. Just for the record, that was like the perfect amount of Loctite. I'm learning. I don't know if that clicking is. Let me go closer. That, I believe, is inside the leg. If you want to look on the CAD, you can have a look on the CAD, but there's where the string gets routed. There's a spot where the string that pulls the leg down, that compresses the leg, there's a spot where that runs like right next to, it's got like 1.5 millimeters clearance, I'm pretty sure, for the spool that the string wraps around. And on some of them, there is a knot that terminates the string. and that knot is big enough that it actually hits the string as it spins around. But only when the knot is in the right spot, right? So like, as it spins around, the knot's like in the wrong spot and it won't contact, and the string's like here, but then when it comes back around, the knot clips it and like twangs the string, which is probably not too great for long-term purposes, but that's kind of the whole vibe of this entire version of Togglebot, so that's okay. Nice. 2 more. This time with fresh shoulder bolts and fresh bearings. Very exciting. Still they don't fit. Trying to get, this is what I'm working with. Trying to get this bearing onto the shoulder bolt. But it just gets stuck. I've got to like, there we go. I can work it back and forth. And once it's on, it's fine. That slides, that's fine. It just gets stuck going on. And like that, the tip of that shoulder bolt looks, let's do it the other way. I mean, like it's fairly clean. It's got some like marks on it because I've used it before, but it's not like it's got, I can't feel any like bumps on it or anything. No, I'm gonna use a different one. In the bin. Not actually, these are expensive. See, this one just slides on. This one just, whoop, straight on, whoop, no problem. Hey. And we need a washer. And the Loctite. Oh, perfect amount again. Getting good. Although I should have put the washer on first. I really don't like letting the washer touch the Loctite, because then the washer will go on to touch the bearing, and I don't really want Loctite in my bearing. It's not what bearings need. I can't even tell how. there's no way I'll be able to feel if that's the right tension or not anymore. Just gonna go off a vibe. Good old vibe. Right, one more. Oh. That explains where the missing shoulder bolt went. I already put it in. No washer. Perfect man again. obviously got more play than I would like. So I'm going to change to a slightly different washer. So right now the washer is over the threaded part of the shoulder bolt. But if I change to the next size washer up, it will go over the shoulder bolt part of the shoulder bolt. And will mean that the whole thing can clamp down a little bit tighter. It's all lined up properly. All right. So we should be able to take it off. Yeah, there we go. Ah, self-supporting. Platform installed. So right now all of the motors are unplugged from the O drive, so I don't feel bad about moving them quickly. Because if you do that when they are plugged in, you can damage the O drives, which is obviously not good. Nice. It's a lot shorter than it was before. Like, this is like hip level. I think, yeah, before it was definitely a lot bigger. From that to that. Wow. Alright, I want to have a bit of a play around with, like, I probably don't want to push it too much while the Loctite is curing, but maybe I'll leave it for a second. I can give you a little look around. I don't know what camera to use. Yeah, current one. This one. Sorry if this is a bit disorienting for a second. So this is what we've got. When I was looking at just the platform by itself, I was a little bit kind of put off by how all of these nodes kind of terminated like a flat point. It looks kind of weird as just the platform. It's like they like taper in really nicely and then just kind of end abruptly. But honestly, I feel like this is kind of good. Like with these in, I feel like it works all right, you know? And hopefully, if you look directly from above, if we move down the whole way, should see that the hand lines up perfectly in the middle, more or less. It's hard to hold this directly in the middle, but that looks good by my eye. Pretty good. I really like how little tolerance there is in here between the hand and these nodes. So tight, but it doesn't actually contact. Just very close, and a similar thing up the top. Very, very tight. Yeah, nice. That went quite fast, to be honest. Let's try moving it around now. That's enough time for Loctite to cure, right? Turn you to the world. Ah, right spot. Nice. So there should be some, yeah, there are definitely limits. Like there, that's contacting the leg. But honestly, that is a very aggressive throw. That is so angled. Like I would never throw at that angle if I was just throwing to myself. And that is a big, something that's worth pointing out for this design. I have now committed to having this design really only be designed for solo juggling, like one arm juggling. So just this hand juggling to itself. So really it should only need to be able to move to like here. Honestly, I feel like staying low is probably better. Down to like there and then across. Because really, like if you're doing two balls in one hand, you only need to be able to move your hand to the width. Like if you're accurate enough, you only need double the width of the ball of like total XY distance. Of course, I need a bit more than that because I'm not robotically precise, but that feels so achievable for juggleball. Like that, this is like no physical effort whatsoever. Like as long as you have practiced the routine of throwing accurately, this is like trivially easy. I feel pretty good about juggleball doing the same. 3 in one hand becomes a whole different ball game because you've got to throw a lot higher and a lot faster. But yeah, I feel good about this. And it's quite open down the bottom, so I should be able to feed in balls pretty easily, and like very open in the front. This aspect is nice. It's come together. Cool. And actually, one other thing while we're here. I want to have a play around with the umbilical cord, as I've been calling it. I'm getting a bit cold again, so I'm going to put my gown back on. Living in a 13-degree home, it does get frosty sometimes. All right, so this cable, I really want it to be sitting in the middle, and that's going to run up to there. I don't really want to plug it in. That's going to go to there. And so in its highest position, we still have so much cable just flopped. Let me move the camera a bit. Gotta get one of those remotes. So, I reckon I don't want the cable to get too stretched out. Surely that's fine. Like portrait mode. That should be right. It's kind of hard to see in the camera, I guess. The black on the black kind of blends in, at least on my view. But that should be fine. That looks like it's about as little as it could afford to be. And this should be able to handle it moving into any position. Yeah, all right, I'm gonna grab a marker and mark that off. Maybe after the stream today, I'll cut that down. Hopefully fix the ground problem. Maybe a little bit more. It's so hard to know how this is actually going to look. Less. looks alright. So then down in the lowest position, the whole cable is off the ground. That's nice. And then the top position looks manageable. Nice. So I want that to be where the CAN cable is cut. This marker doesn't really work on this stuff very well. Cool. All right, I'm happy with that. That's very successful. Honestly took less time than I thought it was going to. All right, nice. So next steps, cut the cable, get it to be the right size. Hopefully that fixes the ground problem. Fingers crossed. We will see. And then some throw catch testing. It's gonna be good. I've contacted I saw a video yesterday where the guy made the robotic foosball table. Very good videos. It was very cool. And he used these, I can't remember the name, I can't remember the name of the cameras right now off the top of my head. But these cameras look pretty good. They're like 3D, like tracking cameras basically, like similar to what I've got for VR, but you have like retro-reflective markers and they can track insanely fast. Like the fastest one was like over 1,000 frames per second tracking the markers. It's nuts. And yeah, I've messaged them, and because all of their stuff is like request a quote style thing. So that would be pretty cool to have, because then assuming like if the Tundra tracking balls works well and I can do it with these trackers that I've already got, that'd be great, and I can like throw that ball to Jugglebot. But what I would really, really love is to be able to use any arbitrary juggling ball and just say, here you go Jugglebot, and just like toss it to it, and then it can track it just with like normal cameras and have it move to it. Because these other cameras, the like Micus ones, whatever they are, they have a version that's like a hybrid that does color tracking. Let me pause the music as I'm talking. It does color tracking like cameras, as well as tracking the infrared markers, not infrared, the retroreflective markers. And that would be cool if I could do both, the retroreflective tracking and just optical normal tracking. That'd be so sick. Yep, but you know, that's in the future. We're getting there. We're getting there. Day by day, progress is being made. Cool. Yeah, and reprint the bellows. If anyone has any ideas for the bellows, please let me know. I really want to. There's like 3, I think, of them, 3 that are broken, and I really want to have them fixed before I'm doing like proper big testing. These legs generate a lot of rotational inertia, and I don't want that rotational inertia going anywhere else. Yeah, it really needs to go straight through those bellows into the base and then be gone. Yep. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Thank you for joining me. I hope that was not too boring. I hope it gives you some insight into what my day can be like sometimes. This is obviously not a super common experience to be replacing the platform, but honestly, it's not that uncommon. Yeah. Cool. Thank you for joining me, and good luck with everything you're doing. If you have any comments or anything, leave them down below, or of course go to Zulip. There's a link in the description and we can have a proper detailed chat. We're still on 99 people. We need one more person to get to the hundo. So close. All right. Yep. I will see you next week. Best of luck with everything you're working on.